My mother brought my sister and I to Canada when I was 5 years old. And her intention was for more. And I remember as we got off that plane, my mom, wrapped us up in these little fur coats, put boots on us, hats on. I'm from Trinidad, so you get the perspective. I don't understand what's going on. And she looks at my sister and I, and she says, I have brought you here for a better life. I know that if you get a good education, and I expose you to all that Canada has to offer, you will have more than what you could have in Trinidad. So as we got off the plane and walked, it felt like miles to the airport, because those were the days where the plane parked way out there. And you walked, it was snowing. I thought, I don't know where we are, but I just want my grandmother, can we go home? And so began my journey. But it was interesting because as my mother talked, what I heard was go to school, get a great education, and you live happily ever after. So what happened for me was I went to school, and I got a great education. So I have 7 years of post-secondary education. I have 2 degrees. And I became an overachiever because that's kind of what I heard. And so I excelled in sports. I ran track. I was a basketball player. I became a competitive bodybuilder. And I went to school. I went to work in my profession. My background is family counseling. I'm a crisis counselor by training. That means I'm an adrenaline junkie. And I love crisis. And I did that for many, many years. And I became the person in the city, I lived in Toronto at the time at the end of my career, that people wanted to work for. I had a gift for creating change in organizations. I had a gift for inspiring staff to overproduce. And as I began to do it, the most interesting thing happened. So I would go from organization to organization. I don't know if you can appreciate this, looking for the bigger check, the more money, because I had a lifestyle in my head that my mom said I could attain. Anybody relate to that? Oh yeah. Okay. And the interesting thing was 14 years ago, I am at work. You can go to the third slide. I'm at work, and I'm exhausted. Have you ever been so tired that the thought of moving your body is a painful thought? So here I am at work. I'm at the bottom of these flight of stairs. It's 4 stairs, by the way. So I'm at the bottom of 4 stairs. And I want to cry because I don't have the energy to move my body up these stairs. And I'm willing my body to move, but it's not. And the tears are rolling down my face. And I'm going, this cannot be. This cannot be. Now, in theory, I'm at the top of my game. In my career, there's nowhere else for me to go. I'm at the top of my income, and I'm exhausted because more income means more hours, more responsibility, and a bigger play box. Does that make sense? And I can't cope. At home, we are $50,000 upside down in credit card debt. We have a lien on our house. I have 3 boys getting ready for what you would call college here. And I am a mess. I am suffering. I'm in pain. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. And all I could think of was, how did I get here? Because in my world, my understanding, I had done what I was supposed to. I have 7 years of post-secondary education. I went to work in my profession. I climbed the ladder. And at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. And I could not understand it. Does anybody ever have that feeling? Right? You feel like you're chasing something that you'll never, ever, ever get. And for me, it was, what was it that I was missing? But this is what I do because I'm a proud black sister. I put the face on, the smile. I'd go out the door. I got it. Right? Right? Because we got the 2 cars. We got the 3 boys. They're all in soccer. They're all doing all the extracurricular activities. We got the home. So we got it going on. And I would keep everybody far enough away from me so that they could see this, but they didn't see what was behind there. The loneliest time in my life, hardest time in my life. I'd go to bed at night and I'd pray. I'd pray for an answer. And then one day I get a call from a friend, and I'll never forget that day because she calls me and she says, Suzanne, I have found our miracle. Now, when you got that call, you're like, what? I have found our miracle. She says, I have found this company. It is going to set us free. It is going to, and I'm thinking, and she goes, oh no, it's going to change everything. We're going to be financially free. We're going to be physically free. And I go, girl, I'm tired. And I hang out. Next day she calls again. Suzanne, seriously, you got to take a look at this. No. And then she calls again, and I have the audacity to say to her, girl, it's all good in my world. That's funny, right? It's all good in my world. And I hang up. She calls me again. So now I get that she's not going to leave me alone. So I decide, okay, I'm going to go take a look at your deal so that I can pick it apart and tell you why I can't do it. And then we'll be good. So I take a look. And this is the thing. The miracle that you and I are seeking never, ever comes in the package that you expect. Ever. And you may want to write this down, because if it came in the package you expect, you'd have it. Does that make sense? You would totally have it. So oftentimes God serves us our miracle and we're like, that don't look right. And we let it pass by. So my miracle came in a little box on my doorstep with some health products in it and a profession called network marketing. And I was like, oh gosh, no. But that day and that decision and those first few weeks was the beginning of a journey that totally changed and rocked my life. So what happened for me was I put the products in my body, I went on this journey, and I began to learn things that I couldn't ever explain to you, and I would never expect as I went on this journey. And what began to happen for me was I began to get answers as to why my world wasn't working. I began to get answers of what I had done right, but what was interesting was what I didn't know that I didn't know, because no one teaches us. And so I dove in with both feet. I did not look back, and I just said, this is going to be the change in my world. And what happened was I went on a journey. I went on a journey of transformation. And for me, I began to totally take my health off the back burner. Anybody have their health on the back burner? In the pursuit of income, money, wealth, keeping up with the Joneses, you're like, I'll get to that later. And I will say to you that that is the foundation for every single thing you do. Because if when your health fails, nothing else works. Right? So I took my health off the back burner. I put it forefront in my mind. I decided that I was going to fill my cup up first and give from my overflow versus giving from inside the cup. So that was the first thing I began to do. Then I began to really educate myself on what was wealth creation versus making money. And I began that education. Then I began to realize that if I wanted bigger things, I had to become a bigger, bolder person. So I went on that journey. And as I went on the journey, what happened for me was I went from financially upside down to financially right side up. Then I went from to financially free. Then I went to making extra money. Then I went to speaking and training, and then I became the first black millionaire in our company worldwide. So the journey's been one of those, okay? I've also gone on, and you can go forward, I've also gone on to author 2 books. I've been privileged to be featured on a CD with Stephen Covey, which was kind of cool. That was a nice phone call to get. We'd like you to talk about one of our habits on my CD, on one of my CDs. I was like, wow, who's calling? Really? I've done some CDs for the Direct Selling Women's Alliance. And if someone had told me that this would have been my life today, I'd have said, no, this is not even impossible, because if you told me I was going to speak to a crowd like this, I'd be like, oh no, that is not me, I don't speak to people. So it's been a total transformation. And what I want to share with you today is some of that mindset shift that was necessary for me to go from financially upside down to right side up. Would that be okay? I'd also just like to have a dialogue with you. So feel free to interact, feel free to comment. I tell people I'm an island girl. We talk to the television and we expect that it's going to talk back, you know what I mean? So please do talk to me. Please, if something lands, let me know it lands. If you got a comment, make your comment, because we're going to have a conversation. I'm a trainer by nature, I'm not a speaker, and trainers, it's a two-way process. I facilitate a process. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you can go to the next slide. So my company is Hartzone, and my commitment is for personal transformation. I believe that if we can all create personal mastery, that is our access to success in our lives. I truly believe that leadership comes from this place called personal mastery. So this is, just as you can see, I've gotten to be mentored by Les Brown. I've trained with a gentleman by the name of David Woods. I've had the opportunity to share the stage with Jack Canfield. So I've been able to do a lot of different things. You can move on. So how many of you have felt like you've walked through the fire? Oh, come now. All right? And I'll tell you, what's unique about me and my training is I have risen from the fire. And I would say to everybody that if you are in that fire right now and it feels like life is pressing down on you, everything's perfect. You are exactly where you're meant to be. Because we make diamonds from coal. We burn down forests when we want something new to grow, right? So if you're in the fire right now, all that means is the universe, God is saying it is time for change in your life, and I'm going to apply the pressure so that you can transform and learn the lesson. And hopefully you will rise from the fire as a new person, a person ready to take on. And I'm an athlete, so I say, when you weight train, when you break a muscle down, you break it down so it builds up stronger. So if you're in the fire, you're being broken down so you can come back stronger. Because every time something comes at you, it's time for change. Because no change that's worth living through can happen without pressure and conflict. No change ever happens without conflict. So when you're in it, what we're going to talk about is don't be a victim of it. Be ready to transform through it. Do you guys get that? Mm-hmm. Yes. Right? Don't be the poor me in it. Be that this is beautiful. And sometimes when you're in it, the this is beautiful, you're like, really? What is beautiful about this? But I'll say to you that if you think it's beautiful, you will find the gift that was there for yours to get. So, go next slide. One of the things, if you work with me and you get to know me, is I think we're all unique. And I think that the world is waiting for each of us to step into our own power, to give the world our unique gifts. I'm a total belief in abundance, that there's enough for all of us, and that your message, I can't deliver. Do you get that? And your message, I can't deliver. So if you imagine that if we're all unique, the world is waiting for each of us to be fully self-expressed, because your message is yours. And so no matter what you're doing, is to know that there's greatness and brilliance in you. Right? And it's about being able to let that come out of you. So the question often is, how do you do that? How do you do that? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Just to let you know some of my commitments. My commitments are to integrity. I'm a big belief in community, and I love the quote that Clifton you started with. I don't believe I can do anything by myself. I truly know that I stand on the shoulders of the giants, and I am where I am because there are people who poured and poured and poured into me, right? So I am nothing by myself. I'm committed to relationships. I'm committed to freedom, and we'll talk a little bit about what freedom looks like. And so those are some of my commitments. And that's what guides the work I do. Go on. Go on. So I'm going to start by saying that one of the beliefs I have is the first person and the only person I lead is myself. Why would I say that? Anybody want to take a guess at that? Why would I say that?
You start with yourself.
Start with myself, absolutely.
You can't control anybody else, really.
Ooh, I can't control anybody else, for sure. Anyone else?
You can't lead where you won't go.
Oh, that's nice. You can't lead where you won't go. What I want to talk to you about the concept of the distinction between management and leadership. Okay? And one of the reasons why I think the first person, the only person I ever lead is me, is because influence is born through inspiration. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So people don't listen to what I say. They watch what I do, truly. Right? So if I am leading me effectively, I will be a source of inspiration, and that's where influence lives. So oftentimes when people come into positions, they're given titles, and they're given, this is your job responsibilities, and they believe that that is actually what gives them the right to lead. And I will say to you, that doesn't give you the right to lead, that gives you the right to manage people. True leadership has nothing to do with the title you have. True leadership has no external power. True leadership is born of internal power. Where that internal power rises from is who you're willing to be in the world. And where you're willing to stand out. Where you're willing to be better than. Where you're willing to grow. So the more you grow yourself, the bigger your leadership capacity is. Because truly, each and every one of us is looking for that person that will step where we're not yet ready to step. And once we see them step and they provide the evidence, we become inspired and we say, oh, I'm going to follow that. Does that make sense? So the other thing is, as Clifton said, is the only person I have control over is me. So if I am willing to be the example of that which I desire to see in the world, I am willing to be the inspiration and the source of that which I want to see in the world. So the first person I lead is me. The only person I can actually lead is me. But through my own personal leadership and my source of inspiration, I will have influence and people will follow. But what's interesting about that one thing is people won't follow from the place of fans who just follow you. They will follow by being the example you set. They will partner with you. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lead a bunch of followers. I want to lock arms with leaders. Right? When you step into leader phase and the first person I lead is myself, you will cause and co-create leadership, and it will be a powerful dynamic. Right? The beautiful thing about this concept is if I know I can control me, I know I can do what I tell me to do. I don't know that you will do what I tell you to do. Right? But I do know that if I inspire you by who I am being, you will act not because you have to, but solely because you choose to. That's powerful, okay? Now, if you want to put together an inspired team, you lead from that place, and you will have people that will work not for the paycheck, they will work because they're inspired. They will work because of what they're a part of. They will work because of who you create the environment that they are capable of becoming. That is true leadership. It stems from you setting the pace. It stems from you being the example. It stems from you being a bigger, bolder version of yourself day in, day out. And it stems from you being willing to transform all the time. So your best today is not your best tomorrow. That's where leadership lives. So that's one of the tenets that I work with. And what's beautiful about that is you're always growing. Therefore, you're always leading. Leaders go flash first. Leaders go first. Leaders set the pace. You're always that pace setter. Okay? You have the next one. I'm committed to teaching hardworking, result-driven men and women who secretly feel isolated, overworked, and underpaid how to unapologetically get recognized for their value, financially rewarded for their brilliance. Those are my people. Any of you in the room? Right? Now, I know they were my people because that was me. I was that proud person who was silently, quietly isolated. And I know what it's like when you know you're better than the situation you're in. You know you're worth more than what's coming in. And the question is, how do I get to that? How do I get there? And that's the toughest place to live. When you know, like you know your name, that you're better than your circumstances. Those are my people. I want to work with them because they're hungry. Right? Those are those overproducers. They get in early, they leave late. The company says, oh, she got me, he got me, and you're like, well, what about me? Right? Those are my people. All right. So, our talk title tonight is called I'm the Creator. And it's about living your life by design. I truly believe that most people live their life by default. I truly believe that people take what life gives them. You're shaking your head. Amen. Right? People take what life gives them. And for the first probably 35 to 38 years of my life, I was that person. I had put my dreams so far in the back burner that I forgot what they were. And I was taking what life gave me and trying to make do. And it was about now beginning to live my life by design. And I'll share with you my aha moment. So my youngest son is called PJ. And he's probably about 14 at this time. And I'm in my office. I've just started my network marketing business, so I'm all set up. And I'm doing my after work hours in my business. And he comes into the office and he says, can we go to Atlanta during the holidays in summer break? And I look at him and I go, babe, I don't think we'll be able to do that this summer. And this little man looks at me and goes, okay. And I went, wait a minute. No upset, no tears, no temper tantrum, no negotiation. In that moment, it hit me. We tell our children they can be and do everything, anything they want. They can have anything they want. And here I was saying to him, very politely, you shrink your dreams to fit my pocketbook and we're good. Do you guys get that? Shrink your dreams to fit my pocketbook and we're good. And I recognized he had shrunk it. He was like, okay, I'm good. In that moment, I said, this has to change. And from that moment, I said, it's time to live my life by my design. It is time to create my life. So people talk about being on a budget and debt reduction, and we were having this conversation today. I'm like, build your money to fit your life. So I'm an all new money concept, right? Because if you think about it, that was right? Because if you think about it, why would you want to shrink your life to fit your pocketbook? Because we all have the capacity to build our pocketbook to fit our dreams. And I said, that's the thing I'm going to do. So we went on that trip. And I said, okay, I'm going to make that money. And I did. And then the next thing it was, what was the next new money thing? Next goal. I'm going to go make that money. And I did. And every time it was like a bigger goal, a bigger goal. And so my life is driven by what's the new money I'm going to make this year. Because I'm no longer going to do this. It's all about this. Does that make sense? So it's about living our lives by our design, and trusting that you have the greatness within you to cause it, to create it. Next slide. So let's talk about hard work and a great education. So I used to think that hard work and a great education would set me free. Now I just say, just gets you in the door. Does anybody feel that? It does. It truly just gets you in the door. The marketplace is so competitive. So your education will get you in the door. It may not even guarantee you a job. It may guarantee you an interview. It'll get you in the door. So the question then becomes, when you get in the door, how do you stand out? How do you distinguish yourself from everybody else? How do you become that difference? Does that make sense? So that became my question. And I recognized that when I was at work, I had a great capacity for standing out. If you put me in an organization, people are going to know my name in no time. And I'm the person that's going to go, well, do we have to do it like that? And they'll be like, that's the policy. I know, but could it just not be like a guideline? Right. Everywhere I worked, I drove them crazy. I'd be like, okay, that policy makes no sense. Why do we have it? And they're like, because it's the law, Suzanne. Okay, but can we kind of bend that, shape it a little bit so that, because it makes no sense, given what I want to achieve with the family I'm working with. That was me. Can you imagine trying to supervise me? Right? And I had one supervisor, bless her soul, because every time I'd be coming into her office, she'd be like, oh, come on. She'd be like, could you just not follow the rules? I'm like, you didn't hire me to follow the rules. Right? Do you get what I said? You did not hire me to follow the rules. You hired me because you want to change. So I took that mentality and I began to put it into my life. So I'm going to say to you that a great education will get you through in the door. What's going to make the difference is, what are you going to do to stand out? What are you going to do to be the difference wherever you are, whether you have a job or whether you have a business? What are you going to do to be the difference? Because if you begin to stand out and you be the difference, you will be indispensable. People will not want to let you go. And if they do, it's because they're afraid. Young man, do you get what I'm saying? So this is going to be part of the question tonight. How do you stand out? So you can go to the next slide. So these are some of my faves. I love these people. And I love them because they do things their own way. Right? And every one of them come from circumstances where they shouldn't actually be where they are. Right? And so the question is, what is going on in their mind that they get to a place where they theoretically shouldn't be? Right? Who knew we were ready for a black first lady and a black president? When they started running, people were like, really? Halfway through the campaign, people were like, really? Right? What was it that they did? When Oprah started, now it's like, Oprah. What is it about Oprah? Michael Jordan, cut from his basketball team. Now it's like, Michael. And Will Smith, I love me some Will Smith. Because he's tenacious, he's hungry. And he said that, one thing that he said that when he was young, he was taught that where he started was not where he was going to end up. It's a powerful statement, right? So the question is, what is it about these individuals that has them stand out that we may want to glean from? Because success always leaves clues. And I'm not teaching you anything new, I'm just teaching you from my lens. Does that make sense? Okay? So, if you can go to the next slide. So this is what I learned and I've seen about these types of people. They will take a leap of faith. And I know Clifton and I were talking earlier today, and we were talking about being willing to take a leap of faith. And I said, being an entrepreneur being in business, being in corporate, will actually, if you want to play at the level where you stand out, let's just go test your faith. Truly. Right? You know, and you know, people talk about their relationship to God. And I'll tell you, if you live from this place, you will put yourself in his hands every single day. Because in order to live that life, that leap of faith means that an idea lands divinely delivered, right? And rather than you sit, analyze it, commiserate, go talk to friend number one who says, oh gosh, don't do that. Go talk to, and by the time you're finished your job, the divinely inspired has left you, and you're like, that's not a good idea. It was delivered to you. What do you mean it was not a good idea? It was your gift. Do you guys get it? Mm-hmm. So what it really means is when you get divinely inspired and a gift gets delivered to you, are you willing to take the leap of faith? Are you truly willing to take the leap of faith? Because if you're willing to take the leap of faith, you're going to leap into nowhere by yourself with your idea. Most of us are like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want a whole bunch of people to agree first. We're going to commiserate. They're going to tell me that's a good idea. And then I'm going to jump. That's not how it works. That is not how it works at all. So your first thing is to be willing to take those leaps of faith. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, this is the interesting thing. As I thought this through, belief comes after we take our leap of faith. And did you notice it says leap of faith, build belief? Do you get the distinction between the two? We take a leap of faith, but we build belief. So belief is built through evidence. I do something, I build belief, I do more. Faith is blind. So the first thing that all these people do is they get a divinely inspired idea and they leap. And they don't wait for someone to tell them it's okay. Now imagine, and I want you, as you do this, to relate this to your work environment. Okay? I was that worker that did those leaps of faith. I had an idea, and what they were telling me to do was not working. I'd be like, I have an idea, and they'd be like, oh gosh, there she goes again. Right? Bend the rules. But at the end of the day, when I bent the rules and whoo happened, people were like, oh, that was good. Right? You got to be willing to take that leap of faith. That's the first thing. And the cool thing is the more you do it, the more belief is built in your ability to do it. Does it make sense? That's what it's about. And that's the first thing that they all do. You can go to the next slide. And you know, the interesting thing is that they will lead rather than live in the circumstance they don't want. Most of us try to manage our circumstances. You know, one of my favorite speakers is Jim Rohn. And I remember Jim Rohn talking about he didn't understand why people went on strike. And he says, I don't understand this striking thing. You all go give up your income. Now, if you think it through, it's kind of crazy. So you go give up your income, you picket in front of the man who doesn't want to give you more money. It is funny, right? And then he says, but you could just go make money on your own, right? That leap of faith. Don't go, why play with a circumstance that's not working when you can design a new one? The reason the talk's called I'm the Creator, because we all are the creators. The question is, are we truly willing to take on the responsibility of creation? Do you get it? Okay. My second thing, you can stay right there. My second thing is none of these people are willing to be victims. They are victors. And I want you to just think of circumstances. So do you notice that some people never have time? So I'm a health buff person. But you notice how some people never have time to work out, right? And some people will do it every day. And people will say, I don't have time. So they're a victim of a lack of time. Do you guys get it? Right? Some people will say, well, I'm in the situation I'm in because of the economy. But do you notice that in the down economy, there's a bunch of people making a load of money? Right. What's the difference between them and the person who says, I'm in this situation because of the economy. Do you notice that some people will complain and whine about a job that they don't like and a boss that they don't like, and they become the victim of their boss, rather than say, let me do something different? And let's just talk racism for a minute. It exists, right? And my thing is it exists. Do you notice how many people use it as an excuse not to progress? They use it as an excuse for where they are in life. They use it as an excuse. And I tell people, one more person talk to me about the man. I don't know who the man is. But really, I go, that is such a victim mentality. Don't be the victim, be the victor. And the victor says, this is the lay of the land. I got it. Now what? The economy's down. I got it. Now what? My boss and I don't get along. I got it. Now what? I'm not going to make you like me. So now what? Do you know what I mean? So what's interesting about this, whenever I coach someone and they're going on, I go, okay, so let's start with this thing called acceptance. Just acceptance. It is what it is, what it is. And most of us are not willing to accept. We want to change. So you and I don't get along or something, or we have a thing, I'm going to go try and convince you. Does that make any sense when you think it through? Right? Whereas if I start from acceptance, then that's the beginning of change. Because I got it, we don't get along. Good place to start. I got it, the economy's bad. Great place to start. I got it, racism exists. Great place to start. Accept the circumstances. Not from a place of bad or good, right or wrong, but from a place of just take the inventory. Does that make sense? Yes. Because when you take the inventory of what's going on, then what happens is you now have an assessment of your playing field, and then you go, now what do I do? Most people take the inventory and they go, oh, poor me. Right. That is not going to get us anywhere. So the real piece is, it's never poor me, it is this is the lay of the land. So I remember when after my phone call from my friend, and I thought, ooh, I need to get real with my life. And I took my inventory, oh, was it scary. Because although I knew I was $50,000 upside down credit card and I had a lien on my house, I was afraid to look at anything. I was like, I'm done looking. We are not going to go any further. When I looked, it was like, I would swear, but, right? It was that sort of situation. But what I had to get to was, don't judge yourself. This isn't about right or wrong. This isn't about good or bad. This is about just getting present to what is. Because until you're present to what it is, you can't create change. You can't move from. So stop the beating yourself up. Stop the shame. Stop the blame. Because I was really into blaming my husband at that point in time. Just be real, right? Even the camera guy is like, right? Stop the blaming. And I just said, okay, so if I just stop and accept it, and just took an inventory of the lay of the land, so this is what is. And then started asking myself different questions, what would happen? So you can go to the next slide. So this is what happens. 100% responsibility. If I share nothing with you tonight, this one thing will change your life. So I took 100% responsibility. I took 100% responsibility for every bill we had. I took 100% responsibility for not liking my job. I took 100% responsibility for everything. Now, most people will say, how can you take 100% responsibility for everything? Because it is the most powerful place to sit. I will just put it to you that way. Okay? So I'm going to work through this so you actually get it. So when I say 100% responsibility, some would say that I was in the situation because some people were not good spenders, whatever. I was in the situation, I was working too many hours because my job demanded that. What I said is, I'm in this situation. And given that I'm here, I am at cause in it. what's powerful about that is that I then decide I can change it. If I play the blame game and I say it's your fault, now you have all the power in my world, because now I have to wait for you to decide to change, and you'd be like, this is working for me. Right? So the minute I say I'm 100% responsible for everything in my life, including an argument that I didn't start, because if I participate, I'm now in it. Do you guys get it? So if I live from that place, where I live is I take my power and I put it right here. And I say, now I have access to change everything in my world. It is the most empowering place. Now, what will happen is how you start to think will become different. Because as soon as you put everything at your doorstep, and you can't give it away, like I can't blame you over here and say, well, you know, you didn't come over and give me this idea. And I followed through. Did you get what I'm saying? And everything sits firmly at my doorstep. I can now take control of it. Because the only thing I have control over is how I choose, and the real word is choose, to respond to everything that sits at my doorstep. That's where my power lies. So in those choices, it's now, what do I choose? To make sense? So this is the cool thing. I choose solutions all the time. So I am never a victim. I have my pity parties, I have my moments. I tell people I don't have full-blown parties, I have moments. Okay? Moments. Because I'm human, and my humanity will show up and I'll have a poor me session, and then I'll be like, okay, are we done now? And I'll go, okay, now what is the solution? Now what's beautiful about when you sit in what is the solution, your mind starts to do different things. Because when I'm the victim, all I talk about is me being the victim. And do you notice that when you're the victim and you're talking about your victimhood, you attract friends? And they all want to talk about how bad their boss is too, and how bad their husband and wife is, and now you're having a full-blown party with wine and cheese. Right? And you're like, how do I get here? Right? When you switch to solution, your mind does something different. Because the minute you say, what's the solution? Your mind goes, what's the solution? What's the solution? And guess what it starts doing? It starts looking for the solution. When you say, what's the lesson? Your mind goes, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? What is the lesson? And it starts looking for the lesson. And what ends up happening is you start asking yourself different questions. Why those people are so successful is when Michael Jordan's coach told him he wasn't good enough, he went, how can I be better? He didn't say, poor me. He might have for a moment, but then he said, how can I be better? What do I need to do to get better? What do I need to do to get on that team? What do I need to be the best? He asked himself different questions. That was not the questions that a victim would ask. It would be the questions that a victor would ask. He went right into solution. Right? When Oprah wanted to start her company, it wasn't, I'm Oprah, I come from this background, I don't have the money. It was like, how do I start this company? Right? I would love to have been a fly on the wall with Michelle and President Barack Obama when they were sitting down going, how do we do this? Can you imagine those questions? Because the world couldn't fathom that. Do you imagine the audacity to begin saying, okay, so how do I become president? But look at the power of asking solution-based questions. Look at the power of saying, what's the lesson? Right? Can you imagine when President Obama had to dismiss his pastor? Do you imagine the solution-based questions that he would and his wife would have to sit down and ask themselves in order to get to that decision? They weren't playing victims. They were like, okay, what's the solution here? At their doorstep. And he took full responsibility. I brought him in, now I got to close him down. Full responsibility, right? That's where your power lies, 100%. And the minute you step into 100% responsibility for everything, you will be amazed at how your life begins to change, because you will get into what's the solution, what's the solution, what's the solution. I don't like my job. What is the solution? I need more money. What's the solution? Right? This isn't working. What's the solution? You start thinking from that, you'll become the most valuable person no matter where you're employed. Why? Because 80 to 90% of the population love to be the victim. And when you find someone who's solution-focused in your company, you're like, who are you? Right? I'll tell you, when I managed my team in my last job, I had a rule that when you come through your door, you're not allowed to dump on me. And they'd be like, what do you mean? You're the manager. And I say, this is how it's going to work. And from the minute I started working there, this is how it's going to work. You can come through the door. You're going to tell me this. I need to vent. I'm going to say, great. I'm going to give you like 3 minutes. Get it off your chest. Then I'm going to look at you and go, you good now? And they're going to go, yep. And I'll go, what's the solution? And what ended up happening was everybody knew they could not walk into my office to dump on me. They could walk in, they could vent for 3 to 5 minutes, and then they had better have an idea. Do you imagine how that team changed? Because I don't work with victims. And that place produced. And people would ask me, how do you get your staff to work these extra hours, produce all these? They excelled. Why? Because they found their own personal power in taking 100% responsibility for circumstances. So yeah, you could vent, you could get upset, but then it was like, are you done? Good. What are we doing about it? What is the solution? And they would transform, and they became present to their own greatness that they didn't even know lived there, right? They became present to who they were capable of being. Does that make sense? Next slide. So the real question is, if you want to work at this level, right, where you want to take a leap of faith, where you want to be 100% responsible, where you don't want to be the victim, you want to be the victor. That's a high level to work at, is it not? And to consistently strive at that level, that's challenging. And you won't do it for a paycheck. You won't do it for money. I can guarantee you that. Because who wants to risk looking bad, failing, having challenges, having breakdowns, going out on their own for money? None of us will. So my belief is that you have to be fueled by a reason that's larger than money. Right? So people, go ahead.
No, I said right.
Right, yeah. You have to be fueled by something that's larger than money. And you know, it's interesting because when I began to look at money for myself for the first time a few years ago, I began to realize that none of us do anything for money. We think we do. We do things for what we believe money represents. Right? Because really, money's just paper. Right? It's something we trade. We could be trading pellets still if we wanted to. That's what it's called, pelts. You know? We could be trading those things. Money's just something we trade. But the concepts that we attach to money is what we do stuff for. So for me, it's to get real clear then on what you do stuff for. So if you want to work at that level, you've got to get so clear on what you're going towards that you're willing to do the stuff that has you uncomfortable. Does that make sense? So people call it your why. I will say you got to figure out what drives you. And it's got to be crystal clear. So as I went on this journey, I realized I knew what it was to work hard. I knew it was to be really tired. I knew it was to put my health on the back burner. I knew it was to feel like I'm at the edge of a cliff, and if the wind blew the wrong way, I would fall off. Can you relate to that? Oh yeah, I knew what that was like that. Oh my, right? I knew what it was to feel like my life was in someone else's hands. And I decided that was no longer. So I said, okay, I'm going to design my life. And I literally did this. I went on vacation. I remember sitting on the beach, And there was this house in the hills, and it had a red roof. And I thought, wow, that'd be cool to live there. So I decided I want a house in the hills overlooking the ocean. And I decided I want a lifestyle where I can fly to my house in the hills overlooking the ocean when I want to. I also decided that I didn't want to be tied down to working anywhere. I wanted to be able to fly to my house in the hills no matter when I wanted, go to work, sit on the beach, do my work, send it in, because there's email and all sorts of stuff now, right? Send it in and go, I'm good. I began to paint my why. I became the creator, and I designed my life. Does that make sense? And my life became so clear. Now, if anybody knows me, if you go, what's Suzanne's vision? They're going to go, oh God, the house in the hills overlooking the ocean. She can tell you what every room looks like. She'll tell you what the kitchen looks like. She'll tell you what the backyard. I am that clear. Now, this is the reason why. Everything I do leads home. Now, the other thing I got clear on was I wanted a lifestyle. And I did not want to work the way I worked. I wanted to work because I'm going to live today. Because too often, most of us go, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to work hard, then I'm going to retire. I'm like, really? What happens if you don't make it there? Tick tock, tick tock. What happens if you don't make it? So I was like, oh no, that's not going to be me. So I'm going to design this lifestyle while I'm going somewhere. But let me tell you, I'm going to live every moment powerfully. So I'm going to design my life. Does this make sense? Okay? So would you like me to show you what I do? Really? I can't hear you. Yes. Okay. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is the first thing. Most people know what they do for a living. However, they rarely ask if what they do will truly help them achieve why they do what they do. Do you guys get that? Most of us know what we do for a living. So I'm talking to a room of accountants and professionals in the financial. So everybody knows what they do. You guys know that you go to an office or wherever you go and you know exactly what you do. My question is, does what you do every day give you the why you do it? Are you living the lifestyle you want? Or are you saying to when this pays off, I'll go live the lifestyle I want? I truly believe that what you do should line up with why you do it. Do you hear the difference? So as I build my plan, this is kind of how I do it. So if you go to the next one. So I truly believe I'm the creator. And when I sent that to Clifton, he's like, really? And I said, yeah, me and God, we talk all the time. And he said, I'm the creator of my life. Because he works through me, right? So I am the creator. So I design my life. I live my life by my design. So you can go to the next one. So this is how it starts. Begin with the end in mind. So I have a very clear vision. Absolutely. I have a very clear vision, and I can see it. And I visit it every single morning. I will tell you, I walked on the beach. I don't know where exactly it is, but I walked on the beach this morning. I was in my kitchen, in my home this morning. I can tell you what the patio off my bedroom looks like. It is that clear. Because when things become that clear, your mind will go find it. And I line everything I do up to this vision. So, the next one. So then I set goals. And I have goals in all sorts of different areas. Now, I start every year, every December, I sit down and I actually write down 100 goals. And I've done this for the past 12 years, 100 goals. Okay? Now, when the first time I was asked to write 100 goals, I said, 100 goals? It's only 1 year. But I actually, when I started going, it was amazing how 100 goals poured out of me. So I'm going to show you the areas that I set goals in. I'm going to show you how it really actually works. So you can go to the next one. So I'll set business goals. Now, most of us set business goals, right? Okay, so I'll set business goals. And because in my mind, if I achieve my business goals, that's a platform to get to my big dream, right? So every year I set business goals, and I set 10 business goals. Okay, so I tell about what I want my business to produce, how much income I want it to produce. It might be I want to bring in some new people to work with me. I get really clear, and that's what I go to work on for that year. Now, separate from business goals, I set money goals. And they're two very different things, because people often collapse them, okay? So my business goals is what my business is going to do. My money goals are my wealth creation goals. This is how I'm going to grow my money. Okay? And this is my budget for the year. This is how much I'm going to save. This might be how much I'm going to donate. This might be my retirement money, my short-term money. I lay it all out so I have clear financial goals. So those are the two. Now this is what most of us do. We kind of do these two, kind of, and then we go to work. And do you ever feel sucked in by those two goals? Like it's all consuming? Anyone? Or is it just me? They become all consuming because we are told that these are the two most important goals. However, if those are the only goals you set, there's no lifestyle attached to that goal. And therefore, those goals become unconsuming, but they're not inspiring. Does that make sense? So for me, if I'm going to stay on the track where I'm at the top of my game, where I'm going to take risks, where I'm going to take a leap of faith, where I'm going to be 100% responsible, if I'm going to do all that, there better be a heck of a lot of inspiration. So now I go to work and I go, okay, so what are my inspiring goals that are going to feed me and set me up so I'm the person who can do this? Does that make sense? So you can go to the next one. So success is truly a journey. It is not a destination, okay? And I want to just spend a little time on this because it's really important to get the whole piece of it that you understand this. So success is not your goals. And most people say that when I get to this goal, I will be successful. But that's not what success is. Success is actually an experience. Does that make sense? So let me ask you this question. How many of you have worked or done a project with someone and it was tough, and the way it rolled out, you said never, ever again? Right? Couldn't pay me enough? Nah. Now you might have achieved the goal, but the experience, that journey was not successful. Do you guys get that? That is the most important part. It's not getting there. It's this piece right here. And if you're going to go on a journey and you're going to lose yourself, your self-respect, your health in the process, you're going to get to the end and it's going to be empty and meaningless and you're going to be pissed off. Right? That's why you're going to say never again. Have you also done a project that might have been tougher than the one you said never again, but the way it occurred was so inspiring? You grew, you made friends, all these things happened that you said, I would do that again in a hot minute, and I'm as tired as heck. Right? Because success is an experience that you have on the journey. Right? Most of us set up our lives that we focus on the goal, but we don't spend enough time going, what's the experience going to be like? And if the experience isn't powerful, why would you do it? Does that make sense? So part of it is as you set your goals, you've got to ensure that the experience feeds you so you keep going. That the experience feeds you so that you play at a higher level. That the experience feeds you so that you're not sitting in regret when you get to your goal because you lost too much. So these are the areas that I set goals in to ensure that my experience is what I want it to be. So my first one is relationships. I set 10 relationship goals every year. And some of them are, who do I want to spend quality time with? Right? It could be my parents. So my parents are always at the top of my list. Right? God is at the top of my list, my spiritual relationship. Right? It could be, who do I want to mentor with this year? And I will say to you that mentorship and those things, the people that you bring into you, should be intentional. Don't let people fall into your circle. That's your circle of influence. Have it be intentional. So I actually I choose 10 relationships. So my relationships are things that I commit to, I commit time to. So relationships don't happen by accident. Well, marriages that last a long time, that's not by accident, that's an intention. A happy one, right? So I list my relationships and I go to work to go, what do I need to do to make this powerful? You go to the next one. Personal growth. I'm going to ask myself, where do I want to grow this year? And again, it's who do I want to mentor with? What courses do I want to take? What books do I want to read? What do I need to feed me and have me become that person? And I build my plan and I commit to it. So if anyone spent time with me, I get up, I work out first thing in the morning, I meditate for 20 minutes, I read for about 20 to 30 minutes. It happens every single morning because that's part of my personal growth. It's a non-negotiable. And I tell people, don't call my house during my time. That does not work. Unless you're my mother, do not call my house, right? Now, some people will say, well, that's kind of, no, it's not. This is my time. I need to feed me first so I can go into the world and produce. So I'm really clear. And I've done this for years. And now people are like, don't call her house. Not good. Right? That's my time. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, so I do my personal growth. And I'm really clear on it. 10 personal growth goals. I read some courses. My goal is to read 10 to 12 books, probably 12 to 14 books a year. I'm usually reading 3 at a time. So I've put in place these things that make my life rich so that the journey is nourished. Next one, please. Health and fitness goals. I make health and fitness goals every year. And I will say to you, the reason your health is on the back burner is because you have no goals. The minute you start establishing goals, your health will stay in the forefront. And if you want to continue to progress, it's every 90 days, every 120 days, check in on your goals, make new ones. But every single year, I create health goals. Now, my goals are kind of ridiculous because I'm in pretty good shape. So this year, I told everybody, I want a six-pack. People are like, really? Why? Because I can. Right? Now, the reason I want a six-pack is because in my mind, I know what I have to do to get that. That's a whole new level of play for me, right? So I set myself up for growth. So I have these goals. I have goals around what I eat. I have goals around my health team. I have all these things. I design it so that it happens. Okay? So now you see, my health will never be on the back burner after business because it's a goal. Do you guys get it? Right? So I'm never going to be in regret around my health because I will do everything possible to keep it in the forefront because I have some clear goals. And then when I set those goals, I set a schedule to ensure that I live those goals. Making sense? Okay, next one. It's my favorite one. My travel and recreation goals. Now, I will say to you that at the beginning of the year, I plan all my trips. And I got, remember, 10 travel and recreation goals. Can you imagine? 10. I got spa days in there. I got beaches, wine tasting, theater, all these different things. This is the reason, and this is the sole reason why. Why would I wait till I got where I was going to live this? But this is the other really important thing. If you want to shift your life, you got to taste it every now and then. So when I go to the spa, let me tell you, I do spa big. I love it, right? Because this is the thing. When my mind says, ooh, I like that spa day, we got to do that more often. Do you think I just fed my dream? I'm going to let's go make some money because we need another spa day. Right? When I'm sitting on the beach and I'm like, oh, this is wonderful, I'm thinking, how do we do this more often? Because it's not a distant memory. It's not I haven't gone on a vacation in 10 years memory. It's last week's memory. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, if you think you went to the spa, then you went on vacation, and all these sorts of things. Would you not do more for that taste? But the thing is, most of us don't taste it, so we don't even remember it. We don't even know what it tastes like because we haven't been it. If you want to expand your life, you've got to start expanding it bit by bit so that you just go, ooh, that was nice. Can we do more of that? Right? And you build a circle of people that are like, let's just expand together. That one area will change your life. Now, let's talk money for a second, because that area and the other area that's really cool is when I do my savings, I have this thing called play money. And my play money is 10% of my income. Think about that. If you want to shift your mindset around money, you start creating play money. And if your play money grows as your income grows, I'll tell you, you will be so inspired to go make more, right? Because the thing that we don't do is we want a lifestyle, but we never taste the lifestyle. But if you taste the lifestyle, you're going to go, ooh, how do I get more of this? And then you're now building a lifestyle not for tomorrow. You're in the moment living your lifestyle. Okay, does that make sense? So that I'm going, and my vision is out there, my goals are here, but I'm ensuring that on the path of my journey, there are stops. There's my health stop, there's my spa stop, there's my theater stop, there's my relationship with my parents stop. I'm ensuring that I'm building my life so that I don't live tomorrow, I live today. I design it so that it feeds me. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I have my contribution and community goals. Now, when you begin to do this, your relationship to yourself will suddenly begin to change. And most people will say, how does this all work? How do you get all this in? You'll get it in. You'll get it in because at first when you start doing it, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go work out. I got to go do this. I got to do that. But in a short period of time, you'll just be like, I got all that done in the first half of the day. Now what? Because it's habits, right? It's habits. And so what I'm showing you is I'm just very goal-oriented. And the second part of it is I line up my habits to fit my goals. So I'm going to spend just a minute talking about habits, and then I'm going to close. So my book is called Leading with Character. Okay? And the title was very intentional in that I believe that your character is your sum total of your habits expressed over time. I'm going to say that again. Your character is the sum total of all your habits expressed over time. So if you are not doing well in the area of health, it's because your habits in the area of health aren't serving you. So all you really need to do is just shift those habits. Right? Just identify what are my habits around health that aren't serving me, and replace them with better habits. If your bank account isn't where you want it to be, it might be that your knowledge is not there, but it probably is sure that your habits around money aren't what they need to be. And my belief is that you don't wait till you have money to put in place good habits. You put in place good habits before the money comes, right? And the chances are the money won't flow till you have those good habits in place, right? So if you're not doing well in money, it's possibly not just the knowledge base, it's the habits. And what's really interesting is when people's lives aren't going well, what they tend to do is they go, I got to go take another course. I got to go get more skills. I got to do more of this. And where they don't stop and look is they go, well, let me just look at me and look at my day-to-day habits. And I will tell you the difference between those 4 people that we saw and the average person is they probably have way better habits. What they do on a day-to-day basis builds the character of a successful person, right? And what's simple about habits is that you don't have to go anywhere to change them. It's not a course you need to take. It's not a learn. It is really just sitting down and remember we talked about acceptance at the beginning. It is sitting down and looking and taking that personal inventory and saying, what are my habits? And going, what do I need to change? So 12 years ago when I looked at my money, I was like, okay, something needs to change. And it was my money habits. right? And I asked myself a simple question. I said, why do I pay the cable guy before I pay me? That needs to change, right? That's just a habit. So I began to reevaluate, and I took my own inventory, and I said, what are the habits that I need to change so I can have the success I want, so I can become the person I want? Because as you change your habits, and the more you change, the more your character changes. And you get known to yourself and to the world as this different person. And it's just bit by bit, bit by bit. Does that make sense? Okay, let's get on the next one. So I'm going to say to you that we all are the creators. We all are. And this is the interesting thing. We create twice. We create first here, and then we create into the world, right? And our creation is based on the story we tell ourselves, right? So you can tell yourself the story of I can't do this and I can't do that, and you know my mother did this to me when I was 5, and my dad did this, and my dad left me, and blah 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 blah, right? Now that story may be real, but I will tell you it's a story. That's all it is. It's a story you keep telling yourself. So this is how my mind works. So since it's a story, I could just create a new one. Right? So I created a story. I got a house on the hill overlooking the ocean. And I tell myself the same story all the time. Why? Because the other story didn't serve me. I could tell myself that day in, day out. I could tell myself the story about, you know, my mom brought me here. We were poor in Trinidad. My mom worked long hours. I could tell you that story. That story, focusing on that story, has no benefit to me. Or I can say, okay, you know what? I got that story. I'm going to go file it. I'm going to open a new book, new blank canvas. I'm going to write my own story, and I'm going to start telling myself that story every day. I'm creating in my mind. And then I'm going to speak my story into existence. It's going to fall into the world, and I'm going to begin to live that story. Now, what's the interesting thing is people treat you by the story you tell yourself and the story you tell them. That's exactly how they treat us, right? And most of us are telling stories that don't serve us. And people are like, I got you. I'm not going to hire you. I'm not going to give you a promotion. I'm not this, because I got you, right? That's kind of what it is. And all we need to do is just go write another story. And you know, it's funny because I was talking to my team, and I said, you know, the other day I realized that my brand is bigger than me. That means the story that's about me, that's out in the world, is bigger than I am. And at first I was kind of taken aback by it because I was like, ooh, that seems kind of wrong. And then I said, no, actually it's right. Because whatever you're living into should be bigger than you. Because that's where inspiration lies. People love people. Like, we started rooting for President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama in the middle of their campaign because we were like, I like this story. Black president, right? We like the story. And then he created other stories. You know, what was it? Yes, we can. People were like, yes, we can. I can. And he was like, grassroots, and we're going to build it from the ground up. We were like, we're going to build it from the ground up. Did you see him leave that story? And we were all like, oh yeah, I'm in this. He said I was going to help him. Right? We bought the story. And then we started living the story with them. Now what's interesting is we didn't stop to go, are you skilled at this? Can you do this? What have you done before? No, people were like, I like this story. This story feels good. I'm running with this story. That is the power of when you create here, you put it out into the world, and people run with it, and how they relate to you transforms. We are the creator. We design our own story. So my thing for you is take 100% responsibility for your life. Be the creator. Be the source. Write your own story. Don't let anybody design your life. Put it out into the world. Begin to live it and watch the world come and meet you. Because the future is not something we enter. The future is something we all create, if we dare to. So we can live our life by default, or we can live our lives by design. I personally, done with default. Totally by design. And I will make up story after story after story. And I tell people all the time, oh, you don't have to like my story. It works for me. People are like, is that true? Does it matter? No. because I'm creating it. I'm going to go live it. I guarantee you it will come to fruition because I said so, right? So, thank you so much for your time. I had fun.